Wonder if this is as delicious as the last one. I remember hearing somewhere that these weren't very tasty, but they're quite tasty. I like it. This is really delicious. It's just like the warmth is nice. You can see that I actually sliced in some smokies, and you know, it's just a cold smoky, but it warmed up in here. And this is it's good. I'm surprised. Just like yesterday. 2 wins in a row. Thank you, Mountain House. Awesome. I've already found a lot of things with the sluice box that are going to need taking care of before it becomes a production version, but overall the thing's a beast. I love it, and I'm just going to put it to work. I'm out here for a few days. I might as well get as much gold as I can while I'm here. Good morning, everybody. Looks like the entire dig site from last night is now underwater, but luckily the pay continues up the bank, so I can peel out this little square right here this morning, and I'll run my tailings from that into the deep parts from yesterday. And then once the water goes back down, I can move into this little section here and then back up there the final day. The material we're working in here, I think it hasn't been touched. This is a pretty popular area, but this is real mucky, slimy, just, I don't know, it's really slippery to walk on. And I think a lot of people have been leaving it alone because of that. There's also just so much ground here that gets refreshed every year. But one of the things that's been working really well is the screen here. You'll see I've removed some of the crossbars. I just took a pair of tin snips and just snip, 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 snip. And these longer holes are allowing the weeds to go through that hole, and the weeds will get wrapped up around this section here, but go through there. And so I've been able to basically dig without needing to scrub off my screen, even though we do have some, you know, mucky swamp grass in the area. You can see just how much the water's come up. It's very clear water right now, but through the water, for example, that trench that I dug, that's not actually a trench, that's actually the entire cut that goes across this entire thing up to here, and then this is just my tailings spread out almost to the edge, and that edge was well out of the water. The water was down there when I was digging. So that's pretty crazy how that happens. Walking on my tailings pile here, moved the high banker 4 times, another tailings pile, another tailings pile. This was 2 moves into this that was existing when I got here. But yeah, got the boat set up there. The tent, I mean, that tent's just looking pretty tired, but even though the zipper doesn't work anymore, there's no bugs this time of year, or none that have been biting me anyways. So it's doing the trick. There's some long morning shadows. Everything's sore, everything hurts, so it is in fact time to maybe have a little cold brew coffee and kick things off for the day. It's not presented very nicely in this McDonald's cup, but it smells really good. It's going to be a good day. Let me tell you something. The first few shovels today compared to the first few shovels yesterday. Oh, I'm getting old. Everything is just sore. Wrists, ankles, back. So I'm hoping I slowly get into it, get back into that groove, and you know, that pain sort of works its way out a little bit. But why doesn't everybody do this, right? Come on out here, maybe make minimum wage, who knows? Oh, cheaper than the gym membership though, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm feeling it. Anyways, there she is. She's running. I'm sure you've all, you know, been following along and seeing how it works. But I'm loving this this screen here. It's working great. I've got yesterday's sort of trench between, you know, fresh ground and dug ground. So I'm just gonna stay up above here and dig this out, and then at the end of the day I can sort of spread everything nice and evenly over all of this. And yeah, box is running good. So I guess at this point it's just time to put in the hours. Try to survive. A lot of ground to move. About an hour in here, and I'm basically just doing a scour test. So running at full speed, empty. I don't know, some gold might be hopping out of the tub here, but there's just going to be some sand in there, and I want to see what's showing. And just a few thoughts on gold prospectors that I have met over the years. Gold prospectors are probably some of the hardest working, most creative people I have ever met. And sometimes, you know, hi, I'm Mr. YouTube. People say nice things about what I like in my videos and stuff. And it's important to recognize the strengths of others in order to, like, you know, keep improving yourself. Because I've been complaining. I dug for just 5 hours yesterday. 5 hours. I did a lot of ground. I was like, yes, look at me. And then today I'm sitting here complaining like, oh, everything's sore, everything hurts. Obviously, I haven't been doing this all year. But some of the guys you meet who are digging are absolute machines out here. Like, they don't look like giant jacked bodybuilders or anything, but the amount of work people can put out, it's humbling to see. And then to be here as, I mean, I'm still pretty young, 37 years old, consider myself fairly fit, but the amount of digging that I've done compared to how sore and tired I am, and just imagining doing this for a week straight, it is humbling. And so while I have certain strengths, it's really important to recognize the strengths of others and use that as a way to set the bar a little higher for yourself. And so that's kind of what's been going through my mind right now, is like, wow, there's a lot of room to improve in terms of just the physical ability to actually shovel. Things to think about. But yeah, just gonna see what's in this tub here, and we'll see sort of how much blonde sand and material has sort of peeled itself out of the mats. See if there's any gold showing in the mats, and then I'll pan out what's in that tub. I'm not getting a ton of buildup up here, just with the way the division is going, so that is acceptable to me. And the bottom would be better because it's split into 3 pieces. I might actually reverse this in the next model. I'm just figuring all sorts of different things that I want to improve upon in this box. But yeah, overall really good. And I'll do a slow motion of this, and then we'll shut it down and have a look at what it looks like after scouring for a good 5, 6, maybe even 7 minutes here. This is something really interesting. Look at how plugged up this screen is. So that'll need a good shake. That's why I have such a large screen area here. These are all still empty, which is nice, but it's such a shallow river, like it's that far under, and so I don't want the whirlpool forming and sucking air. There you go. Glad I have that. Let's go check out this sluice box. It's crazy, it's nice and warm with the sun out, and then the second it goes behind a cloud, you just feel the chill in the air. So we did scour out quite a bit here. It's actually not that much when you consider, you know, how much is in a clean out. But I'll pan this all out and we'll see what we get, and let's just take advantage of, tripping over things here. Let's take advantage of this to have a look at how the box is doing. So right now I'm using a 3/16 inch screen, and I've cut out every second crossbar. So I was concerned I would have some larger rocks. Some of these may have actually fallen in from like a shovel that's dropped stuff in from the sides. But if we look at how this mat is performing right now, it's looking really good. Like there's no large rocks in the sluice. Yeah, even with the organic material that we're seeing up here, it's still performing well. I mean, every cell is just a perfect little pile of black sand and action, and there's all the moss below that. In the entire pile right here, I have not scrubbed that screen one time. Now there are areas where the organics are more difficult to work with. I imagine longer grass and horsetails and stuff. Not guaranteeing this is going to work perfectly everywhere, but it's going to be a larger surface area and less time between having to give it a quick brush. All right, I'll snap back once this is in a pan and panned out. Box is working nicely by the looks of it. There's very little blonde sands that have been lingering in that mat, and this is just a pan of black sand essentially, but I'm not really seeing any gold in the corners yet, so that is a good sign. It ended up sitting there for about 10 minutes of just running at full throttle empty. Sloshed everything back as best as I can. The finest little specks of gold. Like, if you could see a normal test pan, these are some of the smallest pieces. And I would say there's less than half a shovel's worth. By volume, I'd say there's probably like, 20% of one shovel's worth. It's just, when you get really close, it looks like a lot of little specks, but there's almost nothing in this pan. And that was after 10 minutes of running empty after my last shovel. So throughout the day, every once in a while, you don't feed the box for a minute or two. And with some of the other mats, you do a test like this and there's like 3,000-4,000 colors in your end, and you're like, what has been happening throughout a 6-hour dig? Like, you got to clean out every hour. Whereas I clean out once a day because I have the confidence of knowing if I'm losing that, I can throw one shovel into this sluice and get 5 times more gold than that to show up again. So that's really good to see that it is still in fact working that well. We are currently running 1 3/8 of an inch, which I believe is 6.5 degrees of slope, just shy of the 1.5 foot per slope that Pop and Son was recommending. I'm guessing like a piece of a leaf spring or something. Not a leaf spring, but like a suspension. I don't know. Anyways, that, ladies and gentlemen, was refreshing. Hopefully a little recharging. Oh man, it's always intimidating when I'm far from, like, it's a bit of a boat ride to my car to warm up and everything. Excuse me. So I'm always worried that when I get out, I'll be shivering and cold. So I got some hot water ready for me, my towels laid out, I got all my warmest clothes. But after being in the water, doing a little Wim Hof breathing, coming out, not even shivering. It's, I don't know, it's like week into October in Alberta. Yeah, feels good. Glad I did that. Plus I sleep better at night when I'm not all sticky from just sweating all day digging. Hopefully get another hour and a half in of digging and then take a chill night so I have something in the tank for tomorrow. I'm all bundled up after my little bath there, and I found some looser gravel. It's really interesting. It all looks the same on the surface. Some sections are looser, some sections are like rock hard, and I just keep doing test pans and kind of following along. So this loose stuff will be a real good way to get warmed back up. I mean, I started this trip with a pair of pants. That's what I'm wearing now. Pants? Good morning once again, everybody. I slept for 10 hours. I feel great. The soreness in the hands and the feet, and it's actually not as bad as it was yesterday. And so I'm actually in a much better position to dig today than before. Here's the thing. The water is right back up here again, right? And so like way down there, like it was just epically low. And there was a little strip of gold that was going, it was right in that area. Nothing more deeper and nothing more shallower. It's a little patchy. I was hoping to get 10 grams this trip, which would mean, 3 grams a day with maybe a little bonus. So that would be like a stretch goal. But that's if I dug all day today, stayed here tonight, and then went home tomorrow. And the other thing that I need to do is I mainly came out here to dig. It's why I'm not prospecting and trying to find something, spectacular. I just came to a well-known spot, got to meet some people out here. And so it was a good trip, but mainly I just wanted to dig. I wanted to see how that box was running and sort of see where all the gold is. Yeah. So I could stay here today and maybe get another 3 grams of gold, which would be great. But I have a limited time before this flight is booked, and I really want to be able to make sure that I can get that thing right dialed in. I think the next iteration of it is going to be like the final model, but you never know. So instead, I'm going to pack everything up this morning. I'm going to go home, so I've got enough information to see how the recovery was. Immediately, my boat is actually floating again. Last night, that was so far out of the water. It was crazy. I was like, I really hope the water keeps coming up every morning. And it did. That's everything loaded up. The boat is actually floating, which is super convenient. I'll have to push it well out into the river in order to actually, put some power down and get up on plane. But yeah, I'm glad to have as much water in this river as possible right now, just without plastic on the bottom of my boat. It's a little bit nerve-wracking trying to run in such shallow water, but luckily this boat has a 1/4-inch hull and you can smash a rock here and there without too much trouble, and there she is in all her beauty. Might be one of the last rides I get for a while. I'm backing out from shore here, and it's still so shallow all this way out. Just get a little bit deeper before I hit it. Y'all know where I am anyways. But yeah, that is really pushing little Subaru to its limits. It's got the it's a horizontally opposed 6-cylinder, but it's a 3-liter engine. But what they did is they made the low gear a really steep gear, so you don't really get a lot of torque. And it doesn't have the power to spin its own wheels. It just sort of powers out into the torque converter. So it's a little bit risque at some of these boat launches with my boat, but yeah, the old girl still gets her done. Sitting overnight, so it's had a chance to dry out. The box full of material weighs 27.7 kilograms or 61 pounds, and that's with all the mats completely full. Update on this guy here. Lift it up, put it down for that cross piece. Not going to go with that. It's a great concept when it comes to not having gravel in here, but once it gets all jammed up with gravel, that becomes a problem. So back to the drawing board, I'll show you a new idea that I think is going to work a lot better in the next video. Any high banker I've ever run in Alberta, when you're on good gold, you will see gold right at the very bottom of your sluice box. And I fully expect to be losing about 5% of gold. So it's not, are you losing gold? That's a binary question, yes or no. It's how much gold are you losing, and is it worth extending your box to a 6-foot box instead of a 3-foot box? So right here, right by my thumb, there's 2 little specks of gold visible on the surface about to leave my box. But what I want to know is, in this little bottom section of moss right here, what percentage of the total take has made it to this point? And that's hopefully going to build some confidence for people who just have a shorter box like this. Maybe it was set up for sort of that BC gold, but anyone who's running this type of miner's moss and expanded with the classification that we're running at these settings, who just wants to know, what would I be capturing if I had a little more length on my sluice box? Hopefully we can find that out as part of this clean out. Just in case anyone's curious, this box, just the aluminum, totally empty, no recovery matting, no second level, just as it is 8.9 kilos, 19.5 pounds. The thing weighs, like, pick it up with one hand. It's absolutely nothing. Obviously, you're always gonna have something out there in the field, but that's sort of the base start point for weight. This is the raw concentrate, unclassified, taken straight out of the sluice. I did 2 cleanouts, 5 hours each, and right here is what was in the hopper. So a hopper cleanout gets you roughly 2.45 kilograms of concentrates, or 5.39 pounds. Then the gold fingers area, or the sub-classifier recovery zone, that got me 2 kilograms even, or 4.5 pounds of concentrates. And the main sluice run, 39 inches long by 10 inches wide, was 9.9 kilograms, or about 21 pounds of concentrates for each individual run. So I have double that right here. This little bucket down there is just the bottom 8 inches of one of the mats, because I want to know how much gold got down to that point. So that doesn't really matter here, but 1.2 kilograms in that bucket, 2.6 pounds. So we're going to see what the breakdown is of the gold in all of these. I'm just going to run this through the cleanup sluice, and we'll put all of these buckets into little yogurt containers. So first, we classify everything to 20 mesh. I'll pan everything that's above that 20 mesh, and we'll see if we got anything. Everything is classified in the buckets down to 20 mesh now. This is everything that's over 12 mesh, and everything that's between 20 and 12 mesh is in this pan. Really not that much. Out of random curiosity, I decided to take my super magnet here and see how much of that plus 20 minus 12 mesh was actually black sand. And I was really surprised. There's almost no black sand larger than 20 mesh. So the black sand in this river is all super, super fine. Weird. Here's a close-up of all the plus 20 mesh. Look at that guy right there. It's like shiny. Kind of looks like platinum. And then, excuse the shadow there, it's sort of like this stuff is clumping together a little bit, like it's magnetizing itself to itself in these little clumps. But there's legit some, what might be some sort of alloyed platinum group metal stuff in here. So I'm going to hold on to this for later, but certainly interesting what was magnetic that came out of there. This is my cleanup sluice setup. I'm using this Infinity Prospecting matting, and that gold is just from the hopper, 10 hours of runtime. This is what's left in the cleanup sluice from the new gold fingers. Looks like it's actually performing very nicely. This is what was in the final 10 inches of the sluice box, right before it would be, lost back to the gravel bar. So the less we see in here, the better. Relative to the other runs, there's very little showing here. So that is a good sign. The anticipation is killing me. What's it gonna look like as I let it expose all the gold? Okay, I've let it run empty for a little bit, so we're really exposing that beautiful gold. I'll just give you a close-up here. So there is gold showing. Probably just see it right there, and even coming down, there's gold in all the cells and everything, so that's a good sign. I dug for 10 hours. Given the gold I was seeing, 5 grams would be pretty nice, half gram an hour. I think I might hit it. Not too bad so far. The only material I have left right now is just that little bit right here, right here, right here, and right here. That's because I broke this into 4 separate cleanups. You don't have to do that. I'm just curious what the recovery is in each area, so I'm doing this so that you don't have to. But that amount of material needs to get run over the miller table. I'm just gonna come out here. So those 4 yogurt containers right now, rather than putting the miller table straight in here, it's all full of black sand. So I'm gonna completely empty this tub, clean it out so that there's nothing in it. And then I'm gonna run the 4 miller table runs, and all of that material that sits in here, it's just that little, 4 yogurt containers worth. I'm gonna save all of that for the end of the year bucket, because the miller table does lose some gold. And then at the end of the year, I will rerun all of this through the cleanup sluice and the miller table one final time. I have to be careful not to drag this out unnecessarily, but I just want to make sure that I show you, you don't just magically go from the river, YouTube snap, and have fine gold. There is a process involved. When you're dealing with a larger machine like this, with a larger area of miner's moss, something like a gold cube, for example, would be a really quick way to just concentrate everything down, or that VDR matting, the way I'm using it's really good. This is the main run, so I'm going to do 4 yogurt containers. I'm only going to show you 1, and then we'll go straight to the clean gold at the end here. But here's the first spoon from the main sluice run. Might need to adjust my flow a little bit, but just as a example of what we're looking at. So it does look pretty rich. It's got a little bit more to add there. It's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, I'm going to, I'll show you the end result of this, and then the rest we'll skip and we'll just go straight to the clean gold. That's everything. This is just a regular magnet. It just lightens the material just that little bit so that the water can sort of lift it up into the current and run it down. And then for the rest of the non-magnetic stuff, just a real light, sort of an artist's fan brush, and it just sort of gets things back moving, because they kind of lock up and stay put sometimes. And just get right up close here. See all those really fine particles just slowly rolling down the sluice. It's kind of crazy. Like, I don't share locations, because if I do, the people who are already there are going to be mad at me for bringing everyone else there. And if you don't know where it is and you want to find a new place. Well, I've just shared a place that now everybody knows about and it's lost its value, right? So part of the joy is going out and finding these spots. But regardless, I forget where I was anyways. But that being said, for a location, like I went there probably 6, 7, maybe even 8 years ago. I found 8 grams in 6 hours. It was a little richer at that spot, so I don't suspect this is going to be that good. But this has been dug to death, and every year it seems to refresh itself. Either the ice pack tearing apart the bank or the larger floods come in. And for a place that has been dug so much over and over and over again, for a guy to show up randomly with the right box to dig for 10 hours over 2 days and get this, whatever this winds up being, like, we're so blessed to be in this province of Alberta, where obviously there's no gold in Alberta and you have to go to BC to find the good gold, but you know, it's right in our backyards here. We're very lucky. Anyways, this is my lucky snuffer bottle right here. I always use for this. I'll go over again after and brush the rest up because there'll be some more here. But there you go. Reasonable amount of gold. And I basically take this stuff here, and over here I have, these are all weighed and labeled. I've weighed them all today on that scale, including the tape. So I've got the empty weight right there. And this is going to get poured into here for the main sluice, and then it can dry out, and you know, I'll get all of these ready. I won't waste your time with the miller table for the rest of it, but essentially everything goes into these trays, and then I let it dry out in these trays, and we can weigh it, and at that point it's clean enough gold. You can just melt it down right like that if you want to melt it down, or store it in your vial, and it's essentially clean gold. That's the process. We'll snap ahead to once these are all full. Gonna let those dry out, and right over here, that's my end of the year bucket. So all the tailings from all 4 of those sluice runs are all that's left in the bottom of this bucket. So I'm just gonna pour those into here, and then I know I haven't lost anything that did go over the end of the table. Here's the final weigh-in. Everything is dry and has been weighed already. So in the hopper, first place you shovel into, there's 1.02 grams of gold right there. That works out to 17.2% of the total recovered gold from this trip. In gold fingers, we got 0.82 grams, or about 14% of the total take. And in the main sluice, I did the math including this final 10 inches here. So if this was part of this, this would be 3.76 grams of gold, or roughly 69%. Nice. In the main sluice. Then as an extra thing just to see, the very bottom 10 inches of miner's moss produced this little pile here, which is 0.32 grams of gold. So if we times that by 2, because there's 2 levels, we'd get 0.64 grams of gold was caught in the final 10 inches of miner's moss, or about 10.8% of all of the gold was caught in the last 10 inches or whatever. So if the sluice was 29 inches long instead of 39 inches long, we would have lost this much gold. We would have lost about 10% of our gold. The total of everything happens to be 5.92 grams of gold, which, if you go by the spot price of about $80 Canadian, works out to $477.27 Canadian. But as I've said before, if you were to take this into Albertan coins, just to get cash for it, like easy, do it tomorrow kind of a situation, they pay 90% of the purity of your gold. This gold is going to be pretty much bang on 90% pure if you melt it into a button. So the cash value, just to turn this trip into gas and groceries, would be $386. I spent about $120 on fuel. And the reason I say about
is because I never topped up the gas tank in the boat after, so I don't know exactly what I burned, but roughly $10 of gas for the boat, um, maybe $10 of gas for the water pump, and the rest was just highway driving. I drove responsibly. I drafted an 18 wheeler for most of the way in both directions. And so, yeah, $120 of fuel for this little adventure. Not bad. That leaves me with, I'm going to hold on to this, but if I were to turn it into cash, go buy gas and groceries, that's $266 left over in my pocket at the end of this. But if you're watching this video, you know that we don't really do this for the money. I like to aim for that, but we do it because we love it. So for a guy to be able to go to a spot like that has been dug to death for years, and there's still a huge amount of ground that's just this good, waiting there for anyone with the right equipment and the desire to dig. You can go grab yourself a gram or two. Yeah, almost 6 grams of gold, 2 days of digging, total of 10 hours, 5 hours a day. I did 2 cleanups in total. And that is what we got. So I will leave you with a shot of filling up the little bottle here. I think it's going to be a multi-year project at this point, but we'll add that to the stash. And till next time, cheers, and thank you for watching. Well, I'm looking forward to taking what I learned and putting it into the next sluice box. Should be pretty much what you saw, just with the final improvements. Beautiful.